Hey, podcast listening people, Connor Doobie here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day. Thank you for listening in. Really appreciate you. Do us this tiny favor in exchange, in return, for listening to the show. We do a lot. We put a lot of work in to bring the show to you. So please do this tiny favor. Make sure wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and please leave a review. Okay, 5-star review is preferred because it also helps us get discovered by other people, and we really appreciate the feedback. We're here each and every week to bring you great guests here from the Mile High City. This is Mile High Mentors, and I have a great guest for you today. Dave Tabor is the host of the Bronco 360 podcast, and Bronco 360 actually features world-class entrepreneurs who choose Colorado. It's been a Westword Reader's Choice Best Denver podcast the last 2 years. When not podcasting, Dave's time is spent as the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Partnerships for the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. He's sold and exited a successful business exit of his in the past, and also has a pretty interesting career with the Denver Broncos that you'll have to listen into the show to find out about. Before we get there, real quick, if you have guests you recommend for the show, you want to collaborate, partner up with Mile High Mentors in one way or another, do not hesitate to reach out. Send us an email, milehighmentors@gmail.com. Again, milehighmentors@gmail.com, or you can just message us wherever you find us on social media. We're on all the platforms, Mile High Mentors. We tend to use Instagram the most, so send us a message there. Always looking for local collaborations. And on that note as well, no matter what you do, whether you're a nonprofit, you're a small business, you've been around 100 years, if you're in business, likely you're in business to help people, empower people, solve problems. And in order to do that, you need to reach people. You need to be able to reach enough of the right people. And LinkedIn is the best platform to help you accomplish this. So our partners over at Active Blogs have a free resource for you. It's a free training on all you need to reach and close and drive more high-dollar, high-value sales from LinkedIn. Go check out the free training, activeblogs.com/webinar. Again, it's activeblogs.com/webinar. The missing links to LinkedIn success, and you can definitely take advantage of that right away. So with that, folks, again, don't forget, subscribe, leave a review, and without further ado, please welcome Dave Tabor to the Mile High Mentors podcast. David Tabor.
All right.
How are you, my friend? Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. And for being, you jumped on it right away. Thanks for being flexible.
Sure.
I knew who to go to when we had that.
Well, our mutual friend Dave Pritchard connected us, and then you and I talked on the phone. It was interesting. So I've got stuff to learn from you.
Yeah, vice versa. Cool. I'm excited. Shout out to David Pritchard. Yep. And so where are you from originally?
Originally Buffalo, New York, and I made my way slowly from the East Coast. I'm not wired to be East Coast. I lived in Montreal for a few years as a kid, and then high school, college in Des Moines, Iowa, and then moved out to Denver. Yeah, so I've been in Denver my whole career.
You slowly just eked your way across the country.
Yeah, my family is kind of wired East Coast, except for me. So after we moved to Iowa, the rest of them moved back to the East Coast, and I kept coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any family out here now?
Nope. Well, my wife and some like that, but no. Nope.
Do you know of a little town called Peekskill, New York?
No, I was in Buffalo when I was a little kid. I don't remember very much of it at all, but that's where I'm from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is David? Where are you gonna go? Like, if you have an afternoon off, what are some of your favorite hot spots in the Mile High City?
I don't really spend time off in Denver. I tend to go to the mountains when I can. As you know, my podcast is Proco 360, and I feature world-class entrepreneurs who choose Colorado. So I got this pickup truck with the logo on it, and I've got a rooftop tent that my wife and I use, and we'll go out to wherever we can find to go camping and go exploring. And we rent this little old 70s cabin in the winter, too, south of Breckenridge. So we try to get out when we can. And I know your podcast is called Mile High Mentor, so I do love Denver, but we try to leave when we can and go to the mountains.
Yeah. Well, mountains. I mean, that's part of the beauty of being in Denver is you can have a camper and just post up, and there's like thousands of places you can go.
I know. I've got this old 2006 Toyota Tacoma, and it gets me places, and it's fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing some of the people who are in town here who I know who are these big time professional entrepreneurs, but they shed everything on the weekends. Just post up, drive their pickup truck, and go camp in a tent somewhere in the mountains.
Yeah, and that is really part of what is so great about doing business in Colorado. I mean, I have a great story. A woman who reports to me at the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, actually accepted a job offer on the chairlift in Breck. And I didn't even know she was there. It was an accident. I was sitting next to my buddy, and on the other side of him was Lauren Schwartz, and I looked over and, that you? Yeah, Dave. And I said, well, were you going to come work for me? And she goes, oh yeah, I accept. And that was on a chairlift. And I mean, this is what Colorado is about. This idea that, you have a balanced life, and yet you're working really hard typically.
Yeah. I love that too. And I know, and a lot of people move here from like Florida and New York and California, and something I hear a lot when I'm out networking is you don't feel that like community. Am I a little loud? I got a loud voice.
Yeah, it's fine.
Is like the community here, and it's so open and cultured, but also it's like Colorado is becoming a big city, but it's also a big little city.
It's a tricky balance.
Yeah.
It's a really tricky balance. I was just thinking today as I was driving in downtown to come here that I passed an intersection with skateboarders and scooters and bikes and people and all kinds of people. And I'm like, wow, and I was in San Francisco recently visiting a son, and I'm like, it's starting to feel kind of that way. And
like San Francisco,
a little bit, at least that intersection where I was, and it's an interesting place where we find ourselves as far as where's Denver going to go?
Yeah, hopefully not like I was in San Francisco. I think we talked about this, and it was my first time in San Francisco. My experience was appalling. People were shooting up heroin in the streets, and I almost got stabbed by a guy who was throwing a heroin needle at a Starbucks box.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like horrified from this. I've been talking about it nonstop, but that's something totally different. But again, so I was at a networking event last night, and it was amazing because you go there, you're talking to people, and it's like I'm like running into people, and we're like, wait, I know you from... It's like, oh yeah, we talked on the phone like months ago and haven't met in person, and it's like, oh, you know this person that knows this person. So I just love how interconnected. No one's out of access, out of reach in the state, or really anywhere nowadays.
I hear that a lot, actually, especially because my main gig is at the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, and I do hear that from a lot of executives moving into Colorado or companies that are moving into Colorado, that the community really is pretty accessible. It's not hard to connect and meet with people. Yeah. So when you were growing up, what was your vision of your life? Where you're at now? I didn't have one. And I won't go into it, but I didn't get a lot of guidance.
Oh, please go into it. No,
I won't get it. I didn't get a lot of guidance growing up.
Okay.
And so I was kind of left to do my own thing. And what I will go into, though, is that resonated a lot with me. And as I raised my sons with my wife, my ambition was to raise two young men who had the capability to live happy and successful lives in whatever terms, whatever that meant to them.
Yeah.
And so, I growing up, I wasn't really very focused, but I found my way. Yeah. What do you mean by not focused? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And was this because of like your parents weren't around, or no? They just didn't really get it. My father died when I was very young, and my mother just wasn't the sort to help guide one's career. So I was left to sort of figure things out. Which is why my first job was selling life insurance. You told me your first job was selling windows, right? Door to door.
My very first job ever was legitimate job was washing dishes at the Egg and I breakfast restaurant.
Well, there you go. No, I mean, I worked at McDonald's when I was 16, so I had that job too. But at my first job out of college, it's I didn't know what I wanted to do. Somebody said, "Hey, you want to sell life insurance for us?" Blah blah blah, and I did it. It was the worst year of my life, absolute hell. And so then I didn't have direction, and I came out to Colorado, and I had an uncle who had a family furniture business, not Jake Jab, somebody else. And
what do you mean there is no other furniture business?
Now there is no, but then there was, and so I worked for him for a couple of years and saved enough money to go back to school and get a graduate degree, and then I sort of my career took off from there.
Now, so your mom raised you solo throughout your entire childhood?
It's more. I know you want to go there, but
because it matters. I started my first business when I was 7.
Yeah,
and my parents, the way I was raised, played a massive role in how I kind of formulated my vision of the world. It's interesting,
Yeah, it can be, and I'm more personal than that, or more private than that. So the kind of stuff I don't get into. I was deeply influenced by my grandfather, who was an important part of my life, and fortunately he lived into his 90s, and so I had a nice relationship with my grandparents even through college, which is really, really cool. So that's about all I'll get into on that. I know some people like talking about that stuff. I'm just more private.
I think people are more interested in it, and I think the authenticity. People love the authenticity.
I'm authentic with people I'm close with. I'm not authentic in a podcast live streamed on Facebook. That's not my thing.
Fair enough. Yeah. I get it. Get it.
Yep.
So where'd you go to college?
Went to Drake University.
Okay.
In Des Moines. And my stepfather, there's a little more, but my stepfather taught there, so it made it an easy choice.
Just drop a little gold nugget.
Just made it, so it made it an easy choice. But
nobody had it easy. My family was split growing up.
Yeah. So, so that's where I went to college, and then I went to get an MBA here at CU Denver, and that was a great experience. Yeah.
What were you planning on when you went into college?
Stalling. Oh, in getting
stalling?
Yeah, stalling. Really.
Oh.
I just figured I'd go to college and get a business degree and see where what came out the other end. I didn't really have a plan. And even going to grad school, I didn't have a plan. That was pure stalling. It's I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't play pool. I used to play a lot of pool. Can't play pool the rest of my life. I'm not good enough to be a pro, so I better go back to school and hope something comes out of it. And I was lucky. I did get a job right out of grad school. And a guy named Bill Daniels, maybe some of your listeners have heard of Bill Daniels. He was a cable a pioneer in the cable industry, and now the Daniels Fund has over $1 billion that Bill started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he here still?
Passed away, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sure his family's got family around?
No, I don't think so.
Interesting.
So he left all of it to the Daniels Fund. Yeah. Basically, yeah.
So what was the draw? How long ago did you move to Colorado?
Oh gosh, early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the draw? What was the draw?
Like everyone else, I've been here, and it's there. There is sort of a romantic notion about Colorado. People have it. It's I'm going west, going to Colorado. I mean, all the songs about Colorado and John Denver and all that stuff back then. And even now, isn't there sort of some sense of a romance around the state? And it's good for us. It's good for the state, and it's proved to be a great place. Yeah, for me. Yeah.
You met your wife out here?
Yeah. She's from Iowa, but I met her out here.
Oh, okay.
And, she grew up on a farm in Iowa. She's very grounding. I always wanted to marry a woman that would put me on a pedestal, and I've been married a long time. That still has never happened. So, but she's been really good for me. Very grounding, and very, very, really good for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And she's raised a couple of really stellar boys.
Yeah. So you're two boys. You have two kids.
I couldn't have done that without.
How old are your kids now?
Now 26 and 23.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Matt works in tech in San Francisco, and Dan is serving our country in the Air Force.
Wow.
And he is now at Fort Bragg. So, Yeah.
I'll tell him thank you for his service. If you're listening to this.
Yeah, he may listen to this.
Yeah.
When I give him a shout out, sometimes they listen.
Yeah. Only when you shout them out.
Typically,
only when you give them that little feed. That's awesome.
Yep.
So what led? Well, you started. You sold insurance. And
I did for 1 year.
That was in Colorado, or that was prior?
That was in Iowa. Right,
and
out
you
of college,
disliked it.
I hated it.
That was you hated it.
Imagine
tell us more about
being 22 years old and going to sell life insurance to people your parents' age because they're going to die. Yeah. I mean, it's just
it's a morbid.
It's a terrible job. It's an awful job, and I
couldn't do it. There's a lot of.
I sold a little bit, but mostly you sell to family and friends because they pity you, and it's really a bad deal. Mm-hmm. So I could see being in the insurance business as a career for a lifetime kind of a thing, but. Nah, it was awful. So anyway, moved on from that after 1 year. I said I'd stick it out for a year, and I did. Yeah.
So did you dislike the sales component of it, or you disliked just kind of the industry itself?
Well, I disliked cold calling, 100 people a week and seeing if they wanted to talk to me about dying. So there you go.
Was that your approach too? Hey, would you like to talk about dying?
It probably would have been better than my approach.
Yeah.
I don't remember my approach, but it probably would have worked better.
Yeah. No, I know. Like, we talked about this. I was doing insurance, but it was more like auto insurance and stuff like that. But I was cold calling people and but I'm sure that experience. You can speak to this. Like, how has that experience played into like? Where you're at
actually,
now.
The sales experience, the idea of cold calling, of tracking, of following up. I mean, those are skills that if you talk to kids getting out of college with a business degree and say marketing or whatever, and they all want to be like brand managers or whatever. Great. Or they want to do strategy. Great. It's just that, no, you can't. The first thing you have to know how to do is sell something, because there's an old axiom, you've probably heard it too, nothing happens till a sale is made. And people don't want to hire 22-year-olds who want to manage their brands. They don't want to hire 22-year-olds who want to manage their strategy. They want people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and sell something. And regardless of what that looks like, whether it's a real straight sales job or it's some other kind of an effort that has to do with growing the business, that is how you get traction, I think, as a young person in business. So, I brought something out of that miserable experience.
Out of that miserable.
Yeah.
You feel like that's lacking in the younger generation now of business people who are going into business. People my age. Well, I'm 25. By the way,
but you don't have a bad impression of selling. Do you?
Well, I mean, I hate selling. Like, I don't love it.
Yeah.
I dislike it, but it's something I knew I had to master to get to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because even my opinion is like, whether you're looking for a job or you're a business or you're going to start a business, like sales, I agree with you. Sales is the most important function. Nothing happens until a sale happens.
And if you want to be an entrepreneur and you don't want to sell, which we hear a lot. You hear it, I hear it, you see it around. Oh, I don't want to be in sales, but I want to start a business. No, you don't get to do that. You have to, as the entrepreneur, you're the chief salesperson.
Yeah, you got to sell your idea to employees.
Whatever, yes,
or to
if you're raising money, whatever, you're selling. And so, figuring out how to be good at it, and there are some things that I learned along the way in my career that made me much, much better at it, and put me at a much happier place around selling. Mm-hmm. And one of the lessons that took me forever to learn is to stop trying to sell stuff that people don't want to people who don't want it. And it's much better to try to figure out what you have and find a fit and sell it to those people because they want to talk to you. Life's so much better when there's this harmony between the person who needs something and the person who has it.
Yeah.
Right? So, you told me about selling windows, right? Well, 95% of the people you talked to had no interest. What a brutal way to go. So I try to avoid that now. I try to sell to people who want what I have.
People have a negative perception around salespeople or sales in general because of the probably movies, television, but also it's like, I could sell like ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah, isn't that terrible?
But that's unethical. That's like not ethical sales. Yeah. So I love sales, but I hate it's like a love-hate relationship.
When you love it when you know you're serving a client.
Yeah.
And you hate it when you think you're not. And because you're an ethical guy, right? I go around with my wife about this because she talks about, again, she's from Iowa, farm in Iowa. She talks about when I go to these events, the same kind you go to, and probably your listeners, where you're networking, right? She talks about, I hate to schmooze. I don't like schmoozing. I'm like, I hate that word. I hate that word because it's inauthentic, and it makes it sound like people who are talking at these events,
fake.
And some of them are, yes,
yeah,
and I deliberately avoid conversations if I can't feel as though I'm being authentic.
Yeah.
I bet you do.
Yeah. So you seem passionate about sales, and you said there's a couple things you've learned that have really helped empower your sales, kind of efforts. What are those? Like, what advice are you giving out to people?
So I had a meeting with the board of directors of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce because some of them were referring me to companies, which you got to be grateful when you get referrals. These are companies that weren't going to buy. They weren't going to write checks to support the mission of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. And so I created this diagram and said, look, these are the criteria. These are the kinds of people, and I've really spelled
the persona.
It out. Yeah, of the kinds of people that will invest in what we do. Mm-hmm. And here's what they look like, and here's what they say, and here's what they sound like. And so what you asked me is, what would I advise? Figure out based on what you're selling, who really, really is likely to buy and will be happy to, and focus on them. That makes life so much better. Yeah.
But how do you identify that?
Don't you know? I mean, when you're selling something, if you're selling a podcast or you're selling whatever.
I know, but people listening may not know. So how would you personally, because I would
tell somebody, who's your favorite customer? What do they look like? Who's your most profitable customer?
What about someone who's just getting started, though?
Well, what is it you want? What are you starting at? What's your business, and what are you starting? Why are you starting the business, and who should be buying from you? And I've dealt with that before. People say, you ask them about, I'll give a bad example. Somebody has an IT company, and they say, I've got 8 people. They're all great. We serve companies from who have between 5 employees and 50 employees, but we can scale up and do up to 10,000 employees. I'm like, what the hell? You're nobody. So what the biggest trouble is, they're afraid to narrow their niche, and so when they speak, they resonate with no one. So by narrowing one's niche and saying, here's exactly what I do and here's exactly who I do it for, the people who should be paying attention do. That's what I've learned over the years.
And what do you mean by niche? What is niche?
Well, how do you answer that? I mean, I guess I'd have to rephrase or just restate what I said. Look, I don't know how to answer it. A niche is basically a subset of customers who want a particular kind of product, right? And I don't know how to define a niche better. I think most people have an intuitive sense of what it is. You're wearing a red pocket square in your jacket. So if you had a red pocket square store, that might be a little too tight of a niche, right? Because there's only a few people that would buy that. That's probably too small of a niche, although it is a niche, people who like red pocket squares. There's probably a better niche, maybe one that's more exploitable, which might be, young guys that like to dress snappy. Maybe there's a website for them. There's a great niche that comes to mind is the Untuck It guys. I don't know if you've seen it, but basically they've said people want to wear their shirts out, and most shirts when they're worn out look terrible. They're too long and they're too baggy. So we're going to make shirts specifically for people who want to wear them out. And so now they've got this online site, and it's called Untuck It. And they've recreated T-shirts and shirts that look really good.
Wait, is this a real thing?
Yeah. It's a real thing. Wow. I'm not making this up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So untuckit.com, and that's a great niche, right? Yeah. And so who do they sell to? They sell to people who want to look good with their shirts out.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. No, and I agree too. It's like we can't live in a world of you try to sell and you try to talk to everybody and you lose the ear of everybody because you speak to nobody. So
right. Exactly. Keep in mind when in today's noisy world, you only have a second to make an impression. So the idea is, how do you make a quick impression with the people who should care?
You wear a red pocket square.
Maybe. if those are the kind of people you want to attract.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, you know what's interesting? You're in this world, so I'm interested in your perspective on this. We're talking about sales, and we're in this odd era and I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it a lot, and we've talked about it on the podcast when we've had VCs on, angel investors, is people want to do these sexy startups and get a bunch of cash, and they think like, and then like this big exit, and they're not selling anything, and they're not actually, one of the frustrations I hear from a lot of people who are in venture capital or are working with startup companies or other people in like chambers or meetup or networking groups is everyone's going out and all they're looking for is like invest. They're like, I can't start a business because I can't get investments.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think people need to like understand selling is like actually selling to get yourself there, because I know all these peers, companies that have gotten all this cash pumped into their business investments and they go nowhere, and then they disappear because they haven't sold shit. So what is your perspective on that?
Well, I think I share the same perspective. I mean, I've had people ask me, when I started my business, I had a multimedia production company. I started it in my house for one day. Knew I couldn't work at home, so I rented a cinder block basement to work in, which incidentally was kitty corner from Sushi Den. It was really fun.
Oh,
so in Denver, but
I live upstreet from Sushi too. It's dangerous.
Yeah. So, but the point is, like, I wasn't worried about raising money or anything else. I just wanted to make my first sale. And I'm lucky because my name's Dave Tabor, and in Colorado the name Tabor resonates. I made my first cold call, and so I said, "Yeah, this is Dave Tabor with Tabor Interactive." Oh yeah, we've heard of you.
Why does Tabor resonate?
Oh, the history. Lots of people who have been around, like the Tabor Center. You've heard of that.
Oh,
there's a historical Baby Doe Tabor that people write.
So you have
and so there's this. Yeah, it's not. I'm not associated with those Tabors, but people think so. So anyway, and that's okay.
So I'm going to use that to my advantage.
So somebody, yeah.
Why not?
So I made my first cold call. But the point
that's called borrowed authority.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, but the point is, like, I wasn't worried about anything other than making a sale and pulling in revenue. And I think the people who don't have a lot of trouble raising money are the ones who don't need it. That's, of course, everybody hears that, and that's the truth. But the people who are raising money have proven that they're doing something really, really well, and that the money will help them expand exponentially. Those are the ones who raise money, not the ones that are starting out with a good idea.
Yeah, some of them do though. I've seen it. I've heard it also time and time.
Well, even the ones on the online fundraising sites, Kickstarter and stuff. Even those, they're saying, "Here's what we've done, and when you give us money, we're going to give you X." Yeah. So they're still making a sale.
Yeah. That's a little bit different, but I agree with you. But I've heard, but a lot of like I speak to a lot of my clients are baby boomers
too, but
speak for yourself. I know we need to like come up with a roster of guests to see how we can like move them across each other's podcasts. But what was I saying? I've talked to a lot of Gen Xers, baby boomers. I love learning from Gen Xers and baby boomers. And almost across the board, all of them really talk about sales, and they've started their companies, and they have these $100 million companies, and it took time to build. Yeah. But they were patient, and they built something with strong foundations rather than going into it just to get a bunch of cash
What do you think of that? You're 25. You think that's a good idea, or do you think that's old school?
I think I'm 25, but I'm the most patient, unpatient 25-year-old that exists.
But I mean, as a 25-year-old, right? I mean, does that feel old school to you?
No.
No. How come?
Because I've learned. I've always kind of. I'm an old soul. Like I've always kind of connected with the older generation. Like really absorbed. Because I want to be successful, and like, how could I do that without learning from other people who have done it already? And almost across the board, Jake Jabs. When we had Jake Jabs on, he talks diligently about it takes 10 years. And I've heard this across the board, 10 years to really be dominant in a space, in a sector, and to really build something great and sustainable. 10 years. So expect 10 years out of it. And we have these young startup founders that are going in and looking for these short-term exits, and it's built on like fluff rather than something that's like sustainable and tangible.
But you know what?
A lot of them fail.
Well, the challenge, too, you're right. I think you're right. The challenge is that some of them succeed. And so good
Unicorns.
For them. Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not hating on that.
I know you're not. It's just
absolutely
not.
It's
not. typical.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me 7 years to build a business to $3 million in sales. And that's pretty fast, I guess, but it was a service company, so it wasn't like software as a service where you can scale fast or any of that. I mean, these are projects, on that rate. So it just took 5 years before someone called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I heard of you and I need your help." 5 years, man. Yeah, it was hard.
Should have taken that borrowed authority quicker.
I know I should have, but that was a great day.
Yeah,
but but 5 years till I got a call out of the blue with somebody with real money. Yeah,
dang.
Yeah.
Other than that, you were just hunting business
or repeat business.
What was the business?
It was a multimedia production company. We did really high-end interactive sales presentations.
Wow.
So
that for demos?
Yeah. Well,
demos?
So I sold it in 2000. So this was in the late 90s, where we were producing them and they were getting delivered on CD-ROMs. Interactive CDs. So, but clients in Australia and in Sweden and all around the U.S.
CD-ROMs, you say? What are these CD-ROMs?
Yeah, I know. You don't even have a drive anymore, so
yeah.
I know.
None of the computers.
I know. That stuff changes so fast, but yeah.
Not to deter, but I saw something that vinyl records outsold. Outsold CDs.
I know, it's
recently.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense because no one's using CDs anymore, so why not either stream it or do something more fun?
Why vinyl? I guess the aesthetics of it is something that's popular.
I suppose. I don't know. You would know. You're 25.
Everything goes full circle.
Yeah,
at some point in time.
Cool.
So what led you into going into that particular sector?
I was in cable TV, so I kind of was in the media thing, and then I worked as the head of sales for a video production company. And in my take, so they were creating corporate videos, and I was selling. And
what was the company?
Oh God, it's gone. It was called Business Video Productions years ago.
Okay, they were here.
They were here, and a really nice guy named Steve Gray.
Yeah.
He's still around the market, owned it, and great guy. He was a former media guy. But anyway, so I'm like, Steve, I think the world's going interactive, and I think these linear videos, are something that may not really be there. So I just decided, I'm like, I think it'd be fun to do it myself, and I did. So I left. I had a baby at home and barely any money, and just did it. It's one of those things. I told my wife, remember when I told you I was going to start a business one day? Today's the day, and let's get at it. And she was pretty supportive. Yeah.
What was it like in those very early stages of the business?
Really rough. I mean, I had $63,000 in revenue my first year and $3,000 in profit.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to eat on that.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to eat on that.
Yeah. So it's hard. It was hard to get
even
by.
Back in early 2000s, right?
Back in the 90s.
Oh, that was in the
90s. Yeah, early 1990s, but like 94, something like that. So it was a long time ago. But yeah, $3,000 didn't go very far then either. So it was tough.
So in that phase, how did you start that company? Like, more technically speaking, did you sit down, write out a formal business plan? Because I constantly get approached by people who want to start something. They're like, hey, Connor, I have this business idea. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. But I need bing, 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 and bing. I'm like, no, you don't. You just need to get started. But that's my personal opinion, and that's how I've always tackled things. And people come, they're like, well, Does it
work for you? To just start?
Well, it's worked so far, I guess. That's right. But I mean that's how this thing came about. Like we just started, and then we just refined as we went along. Yeah. But if we didn't start, like this was not, this format here, like how we do, me as an interviewer, horrible. It's a skill. It was learned. But if I would have been like, oh, I need to refine my interview skills before I start doing a podcast, I would have never gotten started. Versus like I just started interviewing people.
Yeah.
So what was that like in the early stages? How did you, what did you do to start building up the company or creating?
I never created a plan. I made some bogus spreadsheets that allowed me to sell myself on the idea. But it was all crap.
And my dad, I don't mean to cut you off, but also my dad has had this company for 18 years. Mm-hmm. He wrote it on a bar napkin, and that was his business plan. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I'm not a great planner, but I think for people who are, that's great. As long as it's not a way to not do it.
Which I think it is. It's a vice to not do it.
I think you're right in some cases. My whole focus was on getting clients and making this, because remember, my background is sales. So, I just wanted to get great clients. I had a few things that I did well. One was get clients. I overpromised and underpriced at first. And there were some times when what I was delivering was freaking nuts for the price they were paying, and they couldn't almost not do it. And then I just worked my ass off to deliver it. I found a couple of really, really solid contractors who would work for me, and I paid them. But I paid them promptly. That was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Pay your good contractors. You pay them promptly. You show them the love, and it means a lot. So, but that's how I got started, was over delivering and underpricing, and it's hard because you don't make any money, but you get some traction, and then you get to show your new clients, potential clients, look what I did. And so you just start that way. I lost a lot of money at first, or I didn't make it. So, yeah. But, from 63,000 in sales to 3 million in sales, it was a good ride. Yeah.
So setting almost kind of setting your ego to the side a little bit and letting yourself be able to kind of eat dirt in the very beginning, even though you're kind of losing money, but it allowed you to sell stuff and acquire clients. You
have to get your feet under you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to have some proof of concept, some proof that you can deliver. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you did that. You built that business up for 7 years?
Yeah.
Was that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Then I sold it to a public company, and the story doesn't end well because the public company went broke. But
did you make money on when you sold it, or they went broke?
I got zillions of dollars in shares, and then I got to watch and I had restricted shares, so I couldn't sell them for a period of time. So anyway, it was a really unpleasant thing. But my wife says that I've become a much nicer person through it. So because so David was a mean guy before. Yeah, but when you're riding up a strong upward trajectory, you think you're like the best business guy ever.
Yeah.
And then as your business, is struggling, then you think you're the worst. Of course, it's neither. And but yeah, so on the way up, you get arrogant. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did. I know I did.
If you had to go back and do that again, would you sell the company for the lesson out of it, or would you actually, if you could go back in time, would you have done that differently?
Yeah, I would have. Because I sold it at the time, right as the dot-com bubble was bursting. And so my revenues were plummeting. And, of course, I had to be transparent about that. But what I didn't know was that the purchasing company was having the same problem. And they were trying to buoy their reports by acquiring companies like mine. So anyway, no, if I had to go back, I would have just cut staff, gutted it out. I mean, my revenues dropped 90% over 6 months.
Whoa.
When the dot-com bubble burst, yeah.
Whoa, and, wait, how did those two correlate with each other?
Well, my clients were all .com clients.
Oh.
They were the ones writing.
So
they were writing, 6-figure checks to have websites created and interactive programs made and all that. And then when the .com bubble burst, that all went away. So, it's tough.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's a humbling time for sure.
I'm sure.
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But again, like it probably has helped in your context of the world now.
Sure.
Like,
now I talk to business people now, and at the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, I'm like, look, I know what it means to mortgage your house, to make payroll, and to tell your wife that you're not bringing home any money. You're paying your employees with the mortgage. Yeah, that's a tough go, man. So, but I've got street cred around that stuff. I don't know what it means to run a $1 billion company, but I know what it means to mortgage my house to pay my employees.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you can really, I guess, level with other people who are. So what does the actual Chamber of Commerce do? Like, what is
the Colorado
role there?
Yeah, the Colorado Chamber is different from local chambers of commerce.
Okay.
The real focus of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce is to create a business climate in Colorado and support a business climate that helps companies succeed. So we work a lot in advocacy, a ton in advocacy. So we've got lobbyists at the Capitol. We work with the governor's office, with legislators, with regulatory agencies. I mean, mostly in the press, when we talk about Colorado's growth, you hear about the economic development folks. These companies are moving to Colorado. So-and-so is moving 20 employees. Slack is opening another office, blah, blah, blah. Right?
Yeah.
That's all in this economic development bucket. One of the reasons they come here is because the business climate is good. And that's really the focus of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. How do we make the business climate good? And so that's a real political and advocacy kind of a role. Yeah.
So it's good now. Do you think the way the politics are going, it's going to continue to be as good?
It's more challenging. The last legislative session was really challenging. We've got,
and I can speak to that very heavily.
Go for it.
Well, I'm. This is interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Is like, we're a small business, and we built in a new role into our company that's going to allow us to hire people on commission, based roles, right? And so through my training, my coaching, we're investing in them, but they're commission based. Mm-hmm. And there was a law enacted at the first of the year that, if they don't, in the beginning as we're ramping up, they don't make that.
Got to pay a minimum wage.
Even though their commission upside is really, really heavy. And if they're willing and able, and they're not spending the time working anyways, right? So they're looking for opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
So this could be a student who wants to work, disabled veteran at home, stay-at-home mom, people with extra hours that want the opportunity. So where we were looking at bringing on 10 people into these roles, we can only bring on one right now. And so, not to get political, but there's some areas that I'm concerned are hurting Colorado business owners like us.
Yeah. Well, that whole notion of who's a contractor and who's not.
Yeah.
And how that's set up. I won't speak to the legality around that. I have some background knowledge, but not on a recorded thing. I'm not going to share my advice on that. But
I'm going to pull some stuff out of you eventually.
Not stuff that could get me in trouble, I hope.
Okay, fair enough.
But, there are...
Only the good kind of trouble.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that are going on in Colorado that, look, when one party, either party, controls the House, the Senate, and the governor's office, things tend to get more extreme. And... I think from a business perspective,
balance of power,
balance is useful,
or balance of perspective.
Yes, balance of perspective is a good way to put it. And so, the Colorado Chamber is nonpartisan, bipartisan, depending on what's going on. We've got board members of both parties, and so that's all there. What we're looking for is, business owners really want that sort of balanced perspective. I would say most of our members are pretty socially moderate or liberal, and they're fiscally conservative, and they want to know that they can invest in Colorado in their companies and be successful in the long run. And so, we're looking at how do we make that happen.
Mm-hmm. And how do you make that? Is there something that they can do or sway? How are they involved in that?
They get involved as members of the Colorado Chamber. They get involved. The thing is that legislators really value the input of citizens. They value the input of citizens, I think, more than they value the input of lobbyists. It's just that they don't hear enough from citizens. They don't hear enough from business owners and business leaders. And so
in Colorado?
Yeah, anywhere.
Yeah.
And so
people like me aren't going down and expressing, hey, you just put this in
that's exactly
into
right.
law, and this is how this is impacting.
That's exactly right.
And I get it. I understand it.
Well, and you're busy,
but also
that's not what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why people aren't involved in politics, and
That's right.
And I wasn't until this last election cycle, and I'm sure a lot of people now.
These people like you and others who will speak up act as sort of fulcrum or levers to get their expertise heard. And so our job is really to bring those people to bear with the right expertise, the perspectives, and so forth when they're needed. Mm-hmm. That's the role of the chamber. The role of the members and the role of the experts is to have that view expressed. And so we facilitate that. Yeah.
And what do you actually do? What's your day-to-day?
I'm senior vice president of our business partnership, so I oversee the membership team. I work with some of Colorado's most notable business leaders about what we're doing, why they should invest, how we can help them. I do a lot of matchmaking. Just last week, helped a manufacturer get better connected with a provider of raw materials that he needed, and those are always gratifying. A big deals.
Matt, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I love.
Sure it is.
Yeah, I think we probably are pretty similar in that. Like I see a client of ours that's in this space and a client that's in this space. I love making that connection with
I
people.
know you do. We've talked. You talked about it the first time we talked. You just. It seems like that might make you happiest.
It is. Like when we were talking, I'm like, oh, I know exactly who I need to send over to you for the podcast.
Yeah.
And also it reciprocates.
Yeah.
Like, like if you want to be interviewed on podcasts, start a podcast. If you want to speak on stages, have a platform for other people to come speak. If you want to have people refer you business, refer people some damn business.
Sure,
and like that's,
sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It reciprocates.
Yeah. Well, have you seen that? How long have you been doing? I should know since I'm sitting on this side of the desk, but how long have you been doing Mile High Mentors?
2 years now.
All right. So
Yes.
are you seeing the momentum sort of gel and pick up and stuff?
Yeah. The first year, no, but now it's like, I'll go out and I'll be like, yeah, I host the Mile High Mentors podcast. They're like, oh, I've been listening to your podcast and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that's
cool,
so
huh?
amazing.
Yep,
It's
yep.
like, yeah. So I love that. Not for the celebrity, but just like people are listening to this conversation and getting value. And I get people sending me messages on social media like, hey, I listened to this episode and this is what I took away from it.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I'm sure you experience the same thing as well, right?
It's fun. It has been fun, and doing the live events has been extra fun.
Yeah,
and
we want to do more of that. We'll have to see if we can collaborate on some of that stuff.
That would be. I'd enjoy it. It'd be great fun, and I'm hoping I'll see you tomorrow night. But got another one in October at Tag Restaurant and with Troy Gard. That'll be super fun. And then another one in November on the live music business. That'll be super fun. So, you should sign up.
Yeah. Do I need to register for tomorrow night?
You can't. Well, by the time, if anybody's listening live, they can register. Yeah.
Where are they register? Where are they going to register?
Well, they can. That's a good question.
I'll put a link in the live stream.
Would you put a link? Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll give you that link.
Cool.
It's on Eventbrite.
Cool.
And but otherwise, normally the subscribers to Proco 360, if you go there, you can sign up, and then you'll get notices of all these kind of things.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So.
And what led you? What was we talked about draw to Colorado. What was your draw into podcasting?
I always wanted to be on AM radio. I always did. I always thought it would be
got a
fun.
great voice.
Thank you. People say that, but you
do.
Same with you, right? People probably
no,
say you got
I don't.
a good voice.
I got like a high pitched voice. I don't have a voice for radio.
No, you got.
I hate my voice.
You got the enthusiasm for it, and that's most important. So, but I always wanted to be on AM radio, and a guy named Gail Denninger invited me to do some stuff. He had a podcast he was starting, invited me to guest host that, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of fun. And then he bought some radio time, and he asked me if I wanted to do some live radio, which I did, and that was fun. But and then I bought my own radio time. And by the way, it is I won't mention the station, but they're like, oh, we think you're so great. We think you're so great. And you should buy this time on Saturday morning, have your own show. You're awesome. You're awesome. Yeah, I was awesome because I paid for the time.
Yeah.
Right? And when I stopped paying for the time, all of a sudden they weren't that interested in my awesomeness. So, but it was Saturday morning. I'm like, really a crappy life. Plus, the people I want to talk to aren't listening on Saturday morning. They're listening to that great show where the guy teaches them how to fix stuff, around their house, around the house. That's the guy's name. He has a great radio show, but that's who's listening on Saturday morning.
On radio?
Yeah, or the legal guys. That's what people listen to on Saturday morning. They don't listen to podcasts with Colorado's best, world-class entrepreneurs. So, so I decided I'm just going to take it offline and do it myself and get some sponsors. It's been fun.
This was how long ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
At the same time as
you.
I
Same time.
think I just had episode 54 because I do it every other week. I release a new one. Yeah.
Staying consistent is challenging, isn't it? Just even
that's why I do it every other week. I know that's why I do it every other week because I can be consistent. Although I'm changing out a bunch of graphics and some new things, so I'm actually putting out I'm going to have a 1 week stall, but then I'll pick it up again every other week. But with a regular job and family and all that, it's every other week's good.
What have you taken away most from podcasting over the last 2 years?
It's just fun. It's just fun.
It is fun, yeah.
It's just fun.
But personally, I mean, any lesson in particular?
No, but if you ask an artist who loves painting, what have you taken away from painting? They're like, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's gratifying. You ask me, I mean, it's a hobby for me. I love doing it, and I've gotten to a point where I don't lose money at it anymore, and that's fun. So it's a hobby that doesn't cost me money, and I love it. So, I don't really have a more of a takeaway than that.
Yeah.
There's one other thing. I mean, it is gratifying because I really believe in Colorado. I love Colorado, and I'm promoting world-class entrepreneurs who've chosen Colorado, and so it fits with sort of what I want.
Yeah. World-class entrepreneur. So, I would say one thing that I've taken away, and it's apparent because we're both podcasters, is even in sales, just the level of depth you can take a conversation.
Yeah.
Like you do your podcast. How long are your episodes that you do?
Between 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah. We go for
tight.
an hour sometimes, but it's like you find the level of depth you can pull out of a conversation when you really do a little bit more long form.
Yeah.
And that's helped in real world situations and having deeper conversations.
It makes you a better
with people.
conversationalist, doesn't it?
Yeah, more connected with people because you really got to learn how to listen, which is
I don't know. My wife critiques my podcast and says I interrupt too often. But
but you're excited. It's out of excitement, right? Like I just did it to you now. So.
Yeah, I suppose. Or it also is because I've in my mind I've got a certain time frame I want to accomplish certain kinds of points within. And I follow an outline, and I want to get to certain things, and I want to be done in 30 minutes or 35 minutes. And so our styles are different, right? You're more free form, and I'm more, and maybe that's the East Coast part of me, right? I'm just kind of driving it through. Yeah. So, so it's different in that way, but.
Yeah, I just feel like you can pull different stuff. I've tried it the alternative way, and just it's an organic conversation, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and some of them I didn't like the Connor asked question, guest answer question. Yeah. Well, Connor asked next question, guest answer next question. You know
I think you know what? I think that's why I feel comfortable interrupting, because it creates a more free form, natural flow of the conversation than. And plus, I feel like with my background in business, I have perspectives that add value to the conversation as opposed to a journalist who just asks the questions and listens for the answer. That's, to me, not interesting for me, and if I'm not interested, I don't want to do it.
Who's a guest you've had on that you've continued to study post interviewing them?
I'm a fan of a lot of my past guests, so studying, no. Paying attention, watching, all of them. I mean, you mentioned Jake Jabs; he's one of my favorites, but a lot of tech folks, Andre Duran from Ping Identity, and so it's not so much that so then I'll follow them on LinkedIn, they'll follow me and so forth, and so kind of keep aware. I think is a better term than study. Had the CEO of Snooze, that was super fun, and so I'm watching them. Recently, the CEO of Craig Hospital, the famous rehab hospital in Colorado, world famous. And as soon as I do that, once I'm prepared, I'm so emotionally invested in what they do and how they do it that I just stay connected. I wouldn't say I study them, but I do stay connected. Yeah.
Stay observant.
Yeah, that's a good way to. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Well, and same. It's like I've had people on the show, and you never know what you're going to get out of it at some points, but it's like sometimes it's not even the big context. Like I could interview someone who owns a restaurant chain, right? And that's not my business, that's not my industry. But that one golden nugget, one thing that I can pull out is something I've been really passionate about lately, and really want to impede upon other people who listen to your show, people who listen into this, that one golden nugget.
So what's one golden nugget you can think of from anybody recently?
There's so many. I couldn't off the top of my head. I mean, small things.
Yeah.
Certain things that are applicable at that point in time. Like one of my really good friends who I referred over to you, JV Crum III, conscious millionaire.
Yeah.
Really helped me put into perspective, because I'm money motivated. Like, I'm a money motivated guy, not in a negative way, but like I'm money motivated. But it's also like really helping me refine my intention behind being money motivated, but in a conscious way that, is really in the service of other people, which is something I've always been about, but my perspective has shifted in him and in his. Cool. I've had like Danelle Delgado, who runs Life Intended. She would be, you got to get her on your show. She's incredible. She runs conferences, events all over the world. She's based out of here, single mother, just killer. And I've continued to follow her ever since. And she is just I learn something from her every other day, and she's just cool. A killer. Like, I love learning.
That's really neat. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've taken away from it.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this thing up, I got to ask you, because you piqued my interest on this. Tell us about the mascot deal.
Yeah, I did share with you that I was the Denver Broncos mascot, the one right before Mayor Hancock was the Denver Broncos. So, different people do it, and he did it right after me.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it, laughed about it. It's a very small fraternity of people who have been the Denver Broncos mascot or professional mascot, right? So, but that's a great story, and I've shared it with all my kids' friends because it's all about persistence. People always ask me the same question when they find out I did it. Ask me.
How'd you do it?
How did you get it? Right?
How'd you get the gig?
Yeah. So that's
and why did you want the gig?
Oh, well, I was a mascot in college, and it was super fun. And traveling with the cheerleaders to away games can be a good time.
Yeah.
So
your wife's listening to this, right?
I know, but that was way before I met Cheryl. So so here's what happened. I moved to Denver, and just because I was gutsy, maybe because I'd sold life insurance for a year and I was used to being told no, I called up the guy in charge of the Denver Broncos and said, "Hey, I want to be your mascot. Will you talk to me? I've been a blah, blah." And he goes, "We got one and we got a backup." And I said, "Well, okay, I get that, but let me come in and talk to you." And he goes, "Really, Dave, I don't need you, blah, blah." I'm like, "Let me just come in and introduce myself," right? This is the life lesson of persistence. So he goes, "All right, fine." So I went in there and he goes, "Dave, you're a nice guy, all that, but we got one, we got a backup, we don't need you. Okay, here's my phone number. Just in case, let me give you my phone number." All right, fine. So he takes it on a slip of paper, he sticks it in his desk drawer. The next day he called me. "Dave, our mascot broke his arm. The other guy's moving. If you want it, come get it today." No shit. 24 hours later, I was the mascot of the Denver Broncos. I never tried out. I never did anything but went and picked up the suit. That was it. Yeah. That's the story. But it's all about persistence, right?
Yeah.
It's about showing up. And so I've told that story to all my kids' friends. My kids roll their eyes now when I tell it. But, it's like, that's just how life can be.
It's magic.
Yeah. And
magic.
It was great.
You had your vision set on it, and you didn't know how you were going to do it, but you took action towards it. You didn't just...
You sound like a motivational speaker now.
You didn't... yeah, I know. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy. But also, I believe in that. It's like... anything I've envisioned or imagined when I was younger and I'm here now, I'm like, whoa, like I did it. Yeah. But it's in a different form than you generally think. But when you manifestation is real, but not just like thinking, you have to take action on it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it didn't really change my life except that it's a fun punctuation point.
No, that's awesome. That's so
fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
Just 1 year.
One full year?
I could have done it longer, but people don't realize this was before the current mascot.
What year was this?
Oh, God, I don't know.
I don't mean to date you.
I know, but early 80s. It was Elway's first season as a player.
Oh, that's wow. Wow, that's crazy.
I know. And this mascot was this big, huge, fat, overstuffed horse. And it was so freaking hot. It was so hot. And I couldn't work on Mondays. Like, I had a real job, and I couldn't get out of bed on Monday. I was so dehydrated, so tired. So I had to give it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now they probably have like nanotech in the suit.
It's a way different thing. It's a way different thing. But anyway, it was still cool.
That is a cool puncture. Yeah. I mean, you can share that story forever.
I just did,
How many people can say they're a Denver Broncos?
I still have the pay stubs.
You have pictures and stuff?
I have some pictures, and I'll send you one if you want.
Yes, please. That would be hilarious. I'm gonna create a post out of this with that. So please, yes, that would be great. If you could email me some pictures.
I will.
That would be awesome.
I'm making a note. Photo of Bucky Bronco.
Please.
And and I still have the pay stubs from the NFL, which, come on, how many guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many.
I know.
And we've actually had an NFL cheerleader turned entrepreneur on the show.
Oh, really? Cool.
Before. Yeah. She might be interesting interviewed as well. So, Mr. Tabor, anything last minute while you got the time, what would you like to share? What would you like to impart upon the people?
We got a family motto. I'll share that with you. And my younger son, Dan, has a tattoo on his chest of the abbreviations. Our family motto is be brave, bold, honorable, and kind. and the kind part comes from my wife. So she's trying to teach me. So I guess I'd leave it with that. Thanks for having me.
That's awesome. You're a kind man. Appreciate you coming down. And also, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Please find me at use the Proco360.com website. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn that way too. But I have a lot of fun doing podcasts, and I appreciate you inviting me again. Proco360.com. I'd love to have you listen, and thanks very much for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you, man. This was a blast.
Thanks,
really
Connor.
appreciate it. Guys,
likewise.
Thanks for listening. As always, don't forget, please don't forget, go subscribe and leave a review, and we'll see you over
Give
the
him
next one.
Give him a 5-star review.
5-star, even if it's give something.
It
drop
does,
something.
people, it makes a big difference in the rankings.
It does.
I know. So
it
help
does
him
big
out.
time.
Go rate his podcast.
Thanks, guys.
High mentors.
Love y'all. Bye.